I'm just going to do a short video. I don't know how short this is going to be, but this is, I've been talking about the Bhagavad Gita, and I've actually been working on a translation. And I did a video with 18 essential or important verses from the Bhagavad Gita. And others have done the same thing, that have, picked out the most important verses from the Gita, like the essence of the Gita. And the word for essence in Sanskrit is Sara. Sara. So I'm going to talk right now about Ramana Maharshi's Sri Bhagavad Gita Sara, his essence of the Bhagavad Gita. He picked out 42 verses out of 700. There's 700 verses. He picked out a total of 42. I'm going to read some of these. Let me just talk about Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi seemed to have favored Jnana Yoga, the path of Jnana. And he said that the Jnana Yoga is really the highest path, and all the other paths really lead to Jnana. And we'll talk in a moment about what Jnana is. Jnana is the path of knowledge. Jnana means knowledge or wisdom. It means the separation of what is real from what is unreal, or what is true from what is false. You could say the true self from the false self, or true self from all lower or lesser identifications. In reality, what are we talking about? The true self versus the false self. All identifications which are not truly real. So one interesting synchronicity happened with this. So I was just thinking the other day about doing this, and I was thinking about the term Sara with a line over the so Sara, which means essence, right? The essence of the Bhagavad Gita. And then the next day, we were driving here in Hawaii on the Big Island, and we decided to pick up a hitchhiker, and her name was Sarah. So I thought that was interesting, right? Because I was thinking of Sara. Anyway, this is from the arunachala.org website, and what they have a little introduction. They say Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi are of Tiruvannamalai fame. Out of his compassion, selected 42 verses out of 700 verses of Srimad Bhagavad Gita as representing the quintessence of the entire Gita. It was called Gita Sara. The anecdote as to how he came to select them is interesting. A devotee once requested Bhagavan Ramana to give one shloka from the entire Bhagavad Gita, which would represent the essence of the entire Gita. He also explained how it would be easy to commit to memory one verse instead of the entire Gita. Bhagavan Ramana selected and gave him one verse, which comes as shloka 4 in Gita Sara. Later on, he selected the 42 verses. He had selected them from all the chapters in the order of their importance and not sequentially. So in other words, he picked out number 4 here is the one, is like if you could only have one, this would be it. And it's Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhuta Shayastita Aham Dishcha Madhyam Cha Bhutanamanta Eva Cha. O Arjuna, I am the self indwelling in the hearts of all beings. I am thus the beginning, the middle, as also the end of all beings. Beginning, the middle, Sarva Bhutastita. Sarva Bhutas. Aham Adischa Madhyam Cha Bhutamanta Eva Cha. Okay, I'm the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. I am the self dwelling in the heart of all beings. So that was his number 1, right? And then he listed the order in an order of importance. it's interesting that he has Lord Krishna. The first one he has is Lord from chapter 2, verse 1, which you wouldn't think he would have picked. Lord Krishna spoke these following words to Arjuna, who was in distress and thus overcome with pity, with eyes agitated by and brimming with tears. And then he has, and then, he picked that one. I think just to highlight, I think that really highlights Arjuna's distress. He's in great distress. And Krishna is speaking to him in compassion as his friend and giving him this long discourse on what is yoga. So one thing that I'm going to talk about on this channel is the path of jnana and the path of bhakti. Bhakti is the devotional path. Jnana is the path of knowledge, of wisdom. And I'm very interested in the controversy, the debate that seems to have been raging for a long time now, maybe forever, between those who are more on the jnana path versus those who are more on the bhakti path. And the reason I say that is because those on the bhakti path tend to read the Gita in a dualistic way, in the sense of that God is somehow transcendent and we can never be God, right? We can never be one with God. God will always be transcendent of the soul, right? Atman does not equal Brahman ultimately. Or it could be that it does, but there's something even beyond that, right? Even beyond the oneness, there is the distinction between God and the soul in that the soul can then be in loving devotion of God for eternity. And I think that's something you see in the bhakti, tradition, whereas the jnana tradition is the ultimate is the oneness, right? And they kind of are, not agreeing on that piece, and that's a very important point. You would think is like which is the ultimate, right? What is the ultimate reality? Is the ultimate to be in devotional worship of God for eternity, or is the ultimate to merge? Sometimes it's like called merging with the Godhead. And obviously, just on the surface, you could say good things about both of that. Merging with the Godhead, that sounds kind of boring, actually. Being in loving devotion to God sounds more flavorful and more fun in many ways and more appealing. On the other hand, I could see the other point of view as well, which is ultimately, you realize that the oneness is everything, right? That there's just a one reality, a one love, right? And that is reality, and there's nothing else, nothing outside of that, and anything else is illusory. So even being in loving devotion to like Vishnu or Krishna for eternity is ultimately illusory. So I think it really comes down to not like what is more appealing, but what is the truth, and is there a truth that we could find, and is there a truth that we could even, get to and understand. Now let's just read, because Ramana, sometimes he's called, Ramana Maharshi or Ramana. I don't know which one is more correct. But he does have let's see, something about the jnani here that I want to read to you. A lot of the verses that Ramana has are about the wise person, right? They're about the yogi. Who is the realized yogi? What does that look like, right? What does the realized yogi look like? So one of the verses he has is Tesham Gyani Nitya Yukta Eka Bhaktir Vishishate Priyohi Gyani No Tyartha Maham Sacha Mama Priya. That's verse 7, chapter 7, verse 17. Out of the four categories of devotees, bhaktas, the man of knowledge, jnani, who is ever united with me and has an exclusive single-pointed devotion towards me, the Supreme Lord, is highly distinguished. I, the Supreme Lord, am extremely dear to the jnani, and he is extremely dear to me. Right? So this seems to be suggesting, as Ramana did, that the jnani is really the highest, right? Not the bhakta, right? The jnani, out of the four categories of devotees, the man of knowledge, the jnani, it's not just a man, right? Or the person of knowledge who is ever united with me and has an exclusive single-pointed devotion towards me, the Supreme Lord, is highly distinguished or preeminent. I am extremely dear to the jnani, and he is extremely dear to me. All right, next one. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavanmam papadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabhaha. At the end of many a birth, only the man of knowledge is enabled to reach me by realizing that all this is God, Vasudeva. Such a great soul is very rare indeed. I'm going to read that again. At the end of many a birth, only the man of knowledge, or the jnani, the person of knowledge, is enabled to reach me by realizing that all this is God, all this is Vasudeva. Such a great soul is very rare indeed. And this is something that Krishna says. He says that it's very rare to attain self-realization. And this would be the place of the jnani, right? That the jnani is the one that really gets all the way there. Let's read a few more. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parta manogatan atman yevatmana tushta stita prajña stadochyate. O Arjuna, when once a person thoroughly renounces all his desires which are based in the mind and is content in his own self through the joy of the self, he is called as one steadfast in his mind. Right, so that person is stita prajña. They have steady wisdom. A person of steady wisdom. They've renounced all desires. Let's see. Let's read this one. This is chapter 3, verse 17. Yastvat maratirevasya datmat matripitascha manava atmanyeva cha santushtasya karyam navidyate. For the one who takes delight in the self, who is grateful with his self, and is content in the self, there is no duty left to be performed. Right? There's nothing, no action left to be performed for the one who is fully content in the self, right? And that means the one who has, transcended the mind, transcended the attachment, the desires of the mind, the clinging attachment, right? Overcome suffering completely. Now, I'm not sure if he's going in order of the last one is the most important or the first one is most important. I think it's maybe the last one is the most important. So here's his last one. It's chapter 18, verse 62. Tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bhārata tat prasadat param shantim stanam prapsyasi shashvatam. O Arjuna, surrender to him alone with all your being. You will attain supreme peace, which is moksha, or liberation, and also the abode eternal by his grace. So we're going to end right there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. We've been talking about Ramana Maharshi's essence of the Gita, his Gita Sara, essence of the Bhagavad Gita, and he picked out 42 verses, and we read some of them tonight, and I hope this was useful to you in some way, edifying perhaps, and we'll continue again with more to come, and maybe I'll have more light next time. All right, see you very soon. Thank you.